Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're going to be working on Brenda's Roadster and Brian's 5-window coupe over in the other building. When the parts come in that we're waiting for to get to the next step on this one, we'll get them. Fingers crossed, today or tomorrow, we're going to have lower radiator hoses come in. If they come in, then I'm going to be able to position the front grill shell and then I'll line up the hood. Put on the fan, put on the overflow, and get into all that kind of stuff so that, we can tighten all that stuff up. Still need to sort out the issue of the upper radiator hoses I mentioned in last week's video. More than likely I've got some comments, but anyways, I'm not the first one to do that, to go from 1.25 to 1.75 on a flathead. The other thing we want to work on this week is put a seat in here. Now, what the owner has chosen to do, he's got a third row minivan seat, much the same as what we put in our 32 pickup. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a frame for that to sit on. He's supplied some slides right here he bought for a kit. So I've got a left and a right. What I want to do is to be able to adapt these slides to a frame to the minivan seat that's folded up behind me. So that's one of the priorities on this. And then over on Brian's 5-window coupe, we're just going to work away at the sub rails. I put the sub rails in last week, the cross pieces, and then there's a center floor section. I'm more than likely going to take that up off of the frame. I want to put some threaded plugs into the frame so that you're not doing a nut and a bolt thing. You're just going to put a bolt into it to bolt the body onto the frame. That's the next step. And then once we get that sorted out, more than likely he'll bring the 32 body here to put on. Not sure if that's this week or not, but it all depends on which parts we get and how far we get between the projects. So that's what's on the plate. We're going to do as many of them as we can. So it was a little bit of a road trip day today. My transmission, or our transmission that is, for the Camera Ladies Roadster is all done. It's a Ford AOD transmission, fully rebuilt at Rick Root's transmission here in Nova Scotia. I got a mild shift kit into it. The torque converter was rebuilt. Everything is kind of ready to go. They installed the low car handle in on here for us. So right now we've got to pull that out and stick it in the probably over to the old garage there until we get ready to start doing the assembly work. And then also I picked up our steel rims. Now these are Wheelsmith rims, are 40 Ford reproduction rims with the dual bolt pattern on them. We got them sandblasted and powder coated at perfect powder coating. Then I took them down to my friend's place here and we've got them balanced. Now you probably noticed that there are wheel weights on the outside and the inside. We've got the rears and the back there, but we are balancing our tires dynamically. I don't want any shake when we go onto the highway or anything like that. Some people said maybe use the balancing beads. I've never used them, but we're going to stick with using wheel weights onto them. I would rather see a wheel weight than have a tire shake or something on me. So anyways, we're going to unload those, stick them in the building here until we're ready to work on the Camera Ladies Roadster. Now I'm in the process of trying to fit the third row minivan seat in the Roadster. Not the first person to do this, obviously. Seen a couple people that have done this before. What I don't have is really an indication of how high the seat could fit into it. Now the cars that I've seen online, the back of the seat right here usually sits an inch or two below the back of the car. And I think that's because the back on these is a little bit shorter than what it would be like for a 32, because there's nothing really to adjust here. So right now what I've done, I don't know if you can see it or not, I'll go around the other side here. What I've done, I've just got some 2x4s from the shop and screwed them together right there to build kind of a frame to get an idea of how far off of the floor we need to be. I also don't want to be the owner of the car is an inch or two shorter than I am. So if I'm sitting on the seat and my head's above the windshield, well, that's not a good thing either. So we have to basically adjust the seat down so that, you know, our heads aren't sticking up too high. And then that will basically determine where the back of the seat is going to go. So I already know that the back of the seat is going to be below this. It's just a matter of figuring out by how much. So right now, this is giving me a rough measurement on where to start making some legs. These minivan seats had like a metal bracket plus some rollers onto it. My plan right now is to take those brackets and cut the rollers off the bottom and try and keep the right slope on the seat, and then get her down low enough, but also, you know, strike that balance, that compromise between looking like it's sitting right and then actually sitting right, being able to sit right comfortably in the Roadster. So next step is to take those metal brackets, weld a plate across the bottom of them, bring it back out here, sit it in place, and then see how it goes. So this is the bottom of the third row minivan seat. As you can see there, there's like a whole bracket and some wheels and stuff. I didn't take a picture before I cut them off on the one for Brenda's Roadster, but I wanted to show you what they look like. So essentially what we want to do, I mean, we could make brand new brackets across the bottom, but kind of don't want to, the owner doesn't want to get that elaborate. So what we decided to do was to cut those brackets that are on the existing bench seat. And I'll show you over here. I've got them cut off now. And I've got it sitting or kind of set up inside of the car. So right now you can see where I cut the majority of it off. And I've got some flat bar here, some 2-inch 3/16 stick flat bar, that what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld that to the bottom of these brackets. I made it oversized because I don't really know exactly how long I need it, but the plan is to trim this as needed, and then we're going to fit these sliders here underneath it, between it and the floor. Now, a lot of times when folks build the Roadsters, they kind of put the seat in permanently. They don't want to adjust it, but the owner and his wife, they're both different sizes. He needs the seat back all of the way, and she needs to pull it up forward. So we're going to do our best to accommodate that by putting the sliders on the bottom of the seat. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of room in here to video this, but I'm going to do my best to show you. I welded the pieces of 3/16-inch thick, 2-inch wide bar on the bottom of the supports there. You can see the welds, welded them all the way along. And I now have the seat sitting in here. Basically, I set the seat height there to suit me looking straight out the window. Now I'm a little bit taller than the gentleman that owns this, so I kind of have made sure that my eyes were a little bit high, but I'm still looking completely out the front windshield. That put the seat a little lower than what I thought, but when I look back, we did another upholstery job for the Gadettes, and they had the same seat into it. If I remember correctly now, looking back, and also looking back at the pictures, that's about where the seat sat after it was in there. That's the thing with these minivan seats. They're great, they're flexible and everything else, but they're a little on the small side, which gives the flexibility of fitting in all kinds of applications. So right now what we're going to do is I'm going to take it back out, and then I'm going to start putting the sliders on it. The sliders, we're going to raise it up about another 5/8 of an inch. So this will come up just a little bit more. And also what we're going to wind up doing is probably putting a piece of 1/2-inch plywood in this area here in order to bring it up flush. That's one thing we did anyways when we've done carpets and stuff like that. If the carpet goes over that area, it's better to fill it up flush with the rest of it. We did that with our Model A, and it just makes for a flatter, neater kind of appearance when you ultimately put the carpet in. So anyways, I'll take the seat out now. I'll start affixing the sliders to it and figure out where we're going to drill through the floor. So now I've got the sliders positioned on the bottom. I've welded them in place. The most important thing on these sliders is to make sure that they're both parallel. So the distance between each one is exactly equal. You also want to make sure that it's perpendicular to the back of the seat. So you don't want your seat, sliding right, but sliding to the right or sliding to the left. So kind of have to play with that just a little bit, get it the best that you can. I could have bolted them up to the 3/16" plate there, but I had some interference with some of the brackets. So what I chose to do, I clamped them in place and then I welded them in. So I also opened up these holes to 3/8, because that way when I put a 3/8 bolt in through here, it fits perfectly in the slot and it doesn't spin. So that's another thing. When you're putting seats in these hot rods, you got to be able to make sure you can take them out later. I've had a couple nightmares where it's taken two of us like a half an hour to undo one bolt just because of accessibility and whatnot. So try and plan as best you can, where the holes go through. Ideally being able to take it out with one person so that you don't have one person on top with a wrench and one on the bottom with a ratchet or something. So what I've got planned with these is that the hex bolts fit into this slot. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to cut out a piece of OSB, the shape of this section on the floor. What I did in the past, I used construction adhesive actually to kind of tack it to the floor and keep it in place. The one nice thing about that piece of wood panel or OSB, plywood, whatever you want to use, it'll actually add as a sound deadener too. It'll help reduce the noise coming up through the floor. But what it does in our case is it levels the floor with the front and the two cross members here, because we're not sitting exactly where the original seat sat. So the goal is going to be able to put the OSB down. You can see my marks here tentatively where they're going to go on these blocks. So there'll be a hole going through here, through the floor, and I'll put a big washer on the other side, like a fender washer, to distribute the load across the sheet metal. And then the second bolt in the back is actually going to go on a cross member like this in the back, kind of like what I installed on Brian's 5 window there last week. So I'll show you the next step of getting in here, and we should have this seat bolted in place soon. So there's the next step. I have the piece of OSB just placed in the floor, just sitting there for now. And then I've drilled the first set of holes to hold down the sliders. So there's 3/8 bolts going down through the OSB, through the sheet metal. I don't have a sheet metal washer on the other side yet, but I've got full access to it, so that's a good thing. And then, like I said, having those hex bolts, the width of the slider itself prevents them from turning when you tighten them from underneath. You don't have to have a wrench up top. So what I'm going to do now, in order to make the seat slide forward, there is a bar right there that goes on the slider. So I'm going to flip. I have to widen that up so it fits between the two sliders now, because I think this slider kit came from a single seat. So I'm going to widen that up, put that in, then I'm going to be able to move the seat fully forward, and then we'll drill the holes for the back holes. So there's the seat adjustment put in. Basically what I did, I cut it in half as I was saying, and I just welded another piece of 1/2-inch rod between the two pieces. Works out fine. It actually slides very easily. Hopefully I can do this with one hand. There we go. So slides way far forward, more than what we need to, but that's the full range. If it's this far forward, you can't shift, obviously, but it doesn't take much effort to slide it all the way in. Now, everything is not bolted in just yet, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the seat back out. I'm going to take those brackets off. I'm going to do a little paint touch up on them. We'll put the construction adhesive on the OSB and put it down. And then hopefully we'll be able to put this in semi-permanently, at least permanently long enough for the owner to drive it for a while, because the intention is not to do carpet upholstery until after everything's all broken in. And then once it's all broken in, he's either going to get us or someone else to do the upholstery, do the carpet and the upholstery into it. So anyways, the seat is coming along. I sat into it. Okay, sorry I can't set a time-lapse video over here, but it probably wouldn't be all that pretty. So I'm just still trying to show you step by step as I put the seat in. So here's the painted sides in place with the extended bar across there. Got everything all paint touched up. The owner supplied us with some seat belts. They're just lap belts, which are basically attached to the original position there on the minivan seat, and then we attach the outside one right there. Hoping that they're long enough, but we'll see. If not, we'll have to try and figure out some sort of an extension or something. Those are bolted in place with a bolt and a locking nylon locking nut, so they won't come undone. So and then the OSB there, we painted it black, like I think I've already said. And then I've just put some construction adhesive down underneath it to kind of hold it in place. And like I said, that just levels the floor and it provides a little bit of sound deadening at the same time. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to tip the seat forward. We're going to bolt it in place. And then I'll show you that, and then we'll move on to the next project. So there's the seats installed. I've got it in the forward, in the rear position as far back as it'll go. Final installation kind of puts it close to the back panel, but I think there's more than enough room to put an upholstered panel behind the seat. In some cases, what we do is we'll put it up against this edge. In other cases, you can tuck it underneath there, up against the rear support panel. But I mean, that's something we can sort out. We can also change the limiter on the seat so that it doesn't go as far back. Anyway, that seat's in, it's sitting in solid. Seat belts work great, lots of adjustment onto them. I'm realizing after playing with the clutch and whatnot, we may have to get a shifter that's a little more upright, because when I put it in second and fourth and reverse, the shifter handle actually touches the seat. Anyway, those are some of the kinks that you sort out when you're putting these together. You put it together with the parts that you have, and then you adjust as you go forward. I mean, potentially we could even just bend the shifter lever so it's a little further forward. I'll talk with that over with the owner. Next up, I've got the list over there. I've crossed a few things off, and we're going to go on to the next thing. So next up, I'm going to work on the front grille shell, because the radiator hose has come in. Now, this is the radiator hose. It's a substitute part number. It's a Daco 21236, I think is what is suggested that I use. I got a piece of paper here. Yeah, Daco 21236. And then there's actually a substitute part number 71038. So what we're looking for is this S shape there to fit there. So what I've done, I bought two of them. Now someone said that I can use either end. So potentially we could use that side there as well. But what I've done, I've taken one of the hoses and I've cut a section out here to the right length. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to pull the hood off, pull the grill shell off, loosen the radiator, and see if we can get two of those hoses cut up, fitting down there. So there are the chopped up radiator hoses. Actually, they fit really well. Got to get some hose clamps to put on them right now, but it was a perfect cut. Just put a little bit of soap and water on each end so they'd slide on there nice and easy, and they fit quite nicely. I mean, ultimately the test will be when we start the engine up, but given the way that they kind of slid on from both ends, I think so long as we put a nice hose clamp onto it, everything should be good. So there's another problem solved with the lower radiator hoses. Like I said, if you're looking for the same thing, look up those two part numbers that I mentioned previously. And there's your lower radiator hoses for a 49 to 53 flathead in a 32 Ford car, or a 31 Model A. I believe it worked out for someone else. So now I'm on to doing some more alignment stuff. One thing I noticed with the hood, as I mentioned in a previous episode, the front grill shell seemed to be tilted this way too much. So when I put a level on the top of the radiator, it was definitely out. The car itself is actually sitting level. The engine is sitting level. And also if I put a level on the side of the radiator, it was also leaning this way. So we wound up putting, looks like 4 little washers underneath the pad here to kind of jack things up. Not sure why it's out so much relative from one side to the other, but right now we're level. So what I'm going to do is trial fit the grill back on and see if the hood fits any better. Well, I put the grill shell back on and put the top hood on, or bonnet, depending on where you are in the world. And it seems to have fixed the problem. It looks as though we now have this strip perpendicular with the back of the cowl. The hood lays on really well. There's gap there. I'm not going to need that piece of masking tape anymore. And even across the front, I may have to tweak it a little bit and pull the radiator shell out a little bit there, but that's okay. I also had to make an adjustment so that the strip was right down the center, lined up with the center of the bezel here. We're good. And then over on this side, we've got a decent gap as well all the way around. So I'm not going to put the hood size on, and I'm not going to permanently put the hood back on it. I just wanted to have a sanity check to get the grill shell in the right areas. We still have to put the upper radiator hoses on, the spark plugs on, a few other things. I did take an opportunity to take the cardboard off the radiator shell and mount the electric fan here. Sometimes I have them mounted 2 different ways. On our 32 pickup, I actually have enough room on the front to put the fan on the front. That one is thermostat controlled. On the Model A, I have it on the front and a mechanical fan on the back because the stroker motor she needs a lot of airflow. But for this one, the plan was just to mount the electric fan on the back of the radiator since we have room. So we're going to carry on with a few more things here. I'm not sure what's next, but follow along. So today, jump in the wood shop. One of the things with the Roadster doors, there's these little rubber bumpers that go on the top and the bottom. I've noticed that when you put them in, they're a little bit too thick. Especially some of the Brookfield Roadster ones. I've noticed some folks have put them in and they just gotta slam the door as hard as they possibly can to compress them. Now over time with heat and that, these will compress or shrink a little bit, but when you first put them in, they can be exceptionally tight. So don't be afraid to take these, go into the wood shop or find yourself a belt sander, and then if you basically can get like in this case, I've got a belt sander in my wood shop, so it helps a lot, but you can flip up a regular belt sander upside down and essentially just belt sand this edge here, like just roll it along and then get some of the rubber off. It actually sands up quite well. If there's any of you folks around there that mess around with guns and put on like a rubber recoil pad onto a gun or something like that, it's basically the same approach. You sand the rubber piece to fit. Now you might have to try it, do it a couple times, take a little bit off, go put it on the car. You can use soap and water that will actually help insert this into the door. So I'm going to go try this. I've done one side already. I've sanded this one up a little bit more than what the supplied one was. I'm going to go try it on the door and I'll show you there in a second. Not a lot of room here to film, like I said previously. So this is the rubber bumper I'm talking about. There's one on the bottom, there's one on the top. The one on the bottom fits quite well. And again, I've noticed this with several Brookville Roadster bodies. Not sure about the originals. Maybe it fits a little bit better, but just by sanding down this quite a bit. Now you're still going to have to give the doors a little bit of a slam to close them up, but nothing too serious. Oh, there we go, just like that. Versus like a really, really hard slam we were doing before. We've lubricated stuff up, and we've now got the also got the dovetails in place. The dovetails bolted on here. We've got one on the door there. I'm just going to flip over to do the other one on the other side. But like I said, if it doesn't fit, the rubbers don't fit, don't be afraid to give them a little belt sand. They actually dress up quite well off of the belt sander there, and just adjust them to fit. Well, I think we solved another one of our problems. A few folks reached out to me about reducers from 1.25 to 1.5 inches. Most of the ones I've found so far were, 1.75 inches to 1.25 inches is what we needed to drop to. What I did find was a company in the US. It was called Pegasus Racing Supplies, right there. I was able to buy an 1.75 inches to an 1.25 inches reducer. It's a silicone rubber. As you can see, it fits quite well. We're going to be able to bolt this down. I have to change the thermostats in the housings first before we actually bolt everything back up. But I think it's another problem solved. So we're knocking the problems off one by one here. Next up, we're going to work on Brian's 5-window chassis here. We worked on the sub rails last week, got the cross members put in, a floor pan made up. Now what I want to do is, before I go any further, I want to put some threaded bungs in each of the holes here, because we don't want to have to put a bolt and a nut. So either I'm going to use a round piece of stock with a threaded hole into it, or what I've done in the past, I've taken a piece of like 1/4 inch or 3/16 inch plate, something like this, and it's just drilled and tapped a 3/8 course hole. And then what we'll do is we'll weld that up from behind wherever I can, so wherever I can reach it. So for example, I should be able to do that one there. Other areas where we can't access it, we'll weld like an insert in or something. But right now I'm going to take the sub rails off, and we're going to start working on that. So there's a little time-lapse video of me maybe going a little too fast on a time-lapse, but essentially taking pieces of 1/4 inch plate in little blocks, drilling a 5/16 hole, and then tapping a 3/8 thread into it. So these are going to be our little blocks that we're going to take over, as I mentioned before. And then what I'm going to do is I will position those there. I'm going to drill a hole on either side and then weld those in place. And that's what I'm going to use as our kind of bungs or threaded inserts, or whatever you want to call it, for holding the body down to the frame. So I'll set up the time lapse again, and we will drill the holes and weld them in place. Well, I only had 8 nuts in order, or 8 bolts in order to do one side. So I'm gonna do the other 8 off camera, finish it up, but it's much of the same thing. What you saw in the time lapse there, basically put the bungs in from behind and then weld it up either side and dress them. So the only one I haven't done is this forward one of the for the firewall. I'm going to try and drill and tap that to see what kind of thickness we have there, but I might actually have to like drill that one out and put an insert in it. This is the cowl band bolt. So these 3 bolts here are the ones for a firewall, and then the body would start here and go back. So we've got threaded bungs in all of the body mount bolts now, all the way to the back. These holes here are original rivet holes. I think what I might do is fill those in. Got to go over a bunch of the welds on this too. I'll cover some of that as I go. Not sure how much I can really cover on the rest of this week's video, but going to try and get as much done here as I can, and I'll show you what we're up to. So we got off to one side here. I did get these weld bungs all welded in. They're not dressed yet. Then I got a phone call from a friend, lead for a Y-block engine, which we jumped in the car and went and looked at. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out, but kind of that's the end of the week so far. We kind of ran out of time for this week at Coldstream Rod Shop. What we'll do next week, I'll carry on working on Brian's chassis, kind of like where we left off. But that's it for this week. We got a bunch of stuff done on Brenda's Roadster. We're back on working the chassis for Brian's 5-window coupe. That's it for this week though. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Send us your comments and come on back next week. See what we're up to. Everybody take care.